attributes and responsibilities as well as liabilities. There's also just that leader that's within, that leader that that says, I want to step up. And stepping up does not have to be this giant leap up a ladder or anything like that. Sometimes it's just in how you treat yourself. If you want to be a true leader, you got to be true to yourself, and that'll make you true to others. But it's also just about how you treat other people. How do you step up? I use this example a lot of opening a door for someone. I've seen people that only open the door for themselves, yet there's 5 more people behind them. What does it hurt to be a leader and step up and hold the door open? And then, of course, all the way on up to being a CEO or a president, or being the head of karaoke or the head of the GCC, which my co-host today, Jim T. Chong the Wok star, is. He's an amazing MC and karaoke host, as well as many, many other things, including as a publicist. And so grateful to have him here today. Mike Van Pelt, who's normally on, unfortunately could not make it with us today. So but we're excited to be here with you today and to really start to break apart, because last week we started our new series. Now, prior to last week, we were working on, since the start of the year, leaders as servants. And then we had all the different R's: leader R, blessed, faithful, believers, grateful, authentic, and so on and so forth. Now, as a series, we're at skilled. What does it mean to be a skilled leader? Now, we talked quite a bit about all these different leaders are concepts, are different skills, abilities, and attributes, but these specifically speak to the skilled leader. And so last week we talked quite a bit about skilled leaders. And this is the number one question I get about leadership and sometimes it's based on my opinion, sometimes it's based on research, sometimes it's just people wanting to know, what do I think, which I know is opinion, but are leaders born or are they trained? Now, the simple answer is actually both. And specifically within this topic, this series, Leaders Are Skilled, these are the things that, yes, there are some of them you may be born at that speaks to you just a little bit more than others, but these are all skills that leaders must have. And we talked at that at length with Mike Van Pelt last week. So if you didn't catch that, go back, check us out, and watch that, because it really intros the next several months, actually, of what we're going to be covering in this series of Leaders Are Skilled. And so to kick it off, and to me, this is the most important one. You've heard it come up over and over and over again, and it's because it is the most important. Leaders are communicators. And a lot of times I get asked, well, define a communicator. And I ask it back, well, what's a communicator to you? And usually the number one response I get, well, it's people who talk really well. Listen, I can talk really well and not say a thing. I can be a great presenter and still not say a thing. Great communicators are the ones that put the content together that brings home the intention and the purpose of what we're doing, whether it's in general conversation. Now, if you stumble and you trip a little bit, that's fine. I do that all the time. I get caught on here and remind myself I need to take a drink of water. But as a communicator, as a skilled communicator, it's not just about giving a message or just saying something. I could do that for a half hour on here by myself easily. I was always known as the kid in elementary school as a talker. Chris is a talker. He's a communicator, but he's a talker. Yes, I got in trouble a lot too for all that talking. Now I get paid to do it. So, but the point is, what is the intention behind it? We discussed this quite a bit, but specifically, we're going to stay in this topic. I know, especially when we were in our servants, especially when we talked about leaders are open, they're givers, they're forgivers, they're humble. And then really when we got talking about passionate and compassionate, we talked a lot about how we talk to one another and with one another. But as a communicator, as a skill, it's so much more than just, did you rally the troops? Listen, I can walk into a room and scream yeehaw and get everybody's attention and show a lot of passion real fast. You come to find out that room's looking at me going, why did you just do that? You almost got punched in the mouth because I scared everybody, right? No intention behind it. Why'd you do it? So as a skilled leader, communication is very, very, very important. And so, Jim, coming into this and bringing you along, you do a lot of emceeing, you do a lot of communicating, you work with a lot of teams, you have a lot of shows that you're on. And one of the things that I've always truly appreciated about you is there's times that sometimes we get to speaking and talking and I'll say there's a time limit. Jim's really good at bringing people back within their time limits and not to like, oh, you got to stop it here because you can't talk anymore, as much as it is, let's stay on topic. And it's because there's times when we get to teaching or we get to preaching, so to speak, that we start to throw out too much line. And then now we don't know what we're catching. The people around us don't know what we're catching. And so, Jim, I'd really like for you to speak on the intricacies of communication, but keeping it relevant to what our goal or our purpose or our mission is, especially when we're speaking in front of groups.
In terms of speaking, one of the things you've been doing an excellent job. I want to applaud you in terms of the True Leadership Program. Leaders are listeners. That's what you said earlier on, right?
Yes.
And the whole thing is when you're going ahead and speaking with people and groups, can you define me the specific question once again? Because I wanted to make sure that I got this right.
The big thing is understanding as a communicator, staying on topic with the intent and purpose of the mission or the goal. How do we stay in that? Because there's a lot of times people get to talking and they talk past what even needed to be talked, or they never get to it. So keeping people reeled in.
Well, I think this is a great topic. I actually had several discussions with people. I didn't even think about it. Maybe it's to prep me for this here. But the whole thing is that it's really like anything else. Hopefully, is the connection still good there? We're good?
We can hear voice. The video's down, but voice is good.
Okay. So one of the things is that you have to know what the target is. What are you trying to accomplish? This is very important. And because everything is surrounded by that. Otherwise, people feel like you're not listening to them. They might have their own inferences in terms of what they think is the appropriate thing to do or the appropriate definition of what you're talking about. But if you don't have a specific mission, then it does go all over the place by definition, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to know what you're trying to accomplish in a discussion. Let me tell you, in business sales, right? Ultimately, somebody wants to be able to close business with somebody by definition, right? When they're talking to you. If that's my mission, then I need to think about what you want. But ultimately, at some point, I got to get talked to what I want to try to sell you on and try to close you on it. Would you agree with that, Chris?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So a lot of people in today's world, they want business, but they never ask for the business. They talk about everything else. So that really isn't their true intention of doing. They think that they're trying to get business, but if they never ask for it and they don't make any money from it, then you have to question, is their intention real? So we have to know exactly what we're trying to accomplish within that discussion. That keeps you on topic by definition, right? You follow a roadmap, GPS. If you get off the GPS will say, hey, hang a right. It will redirect you to get back on the path. You have to know what that path is, and you need to know what the objective is. So my objective is to support you today. My objective right now is to answer your question. I needed to be real clear in terms of what you were asking. Otherwise, I might be able to talk about, hey, we had a really exciting weekend. We're at Stone's Casino. I shared with you about this. We filled it up. Great. And communication. I love communicating, but I didn't answer your question, right? So I need to know ultimately just kind of what my objective is and how do I define it. All right. For me, I had to re-ask you, hey, I just want to make sure it's clear. That's okay to do that. But once you got it locked in, everything needs to support that, whether it be through story, which is longer, just a direct statement. However you communicate is really important, but to stay on task and really communicate what you want to communicate and really have that great communication, you have to know what is the purpose of that discussion and live towards it. Through the whole conversation, you should be asking yourself, am I living up to what I'm trying to do? And there could be some indirectness, and it's like a mission statement of a company, right? I mean, you kind of have to know what the mission statement is. You have to do a lot of things still to get to it, but ultimately, does everything center around getting to that objective? So define the objective, know what the objective is, and just be checking along the way during your discussion, what you're presenting. Is that fulfilling what you want to achieve? Finally, being able to just summarize it. And then I naturally, and it could be to a fault because I do it to the extreme, I naturally ask questions. Hey, are you with me? Do you understand what I mean? Because I know if I lose them here, then they're not going to be able to follow me. So you need to make sure that people are tracking, receiving what you're saying, and being able to conclude and leave that hopefully as a final thought. So, definitely, you want to be able to, again, define, understand what the objective you're trying to achieve is, right? Check it along the way and be able to summarize with that. So I hope I answered your question about, how to stay on point and how to really not meander only, but really get to that point, make sure that you're having effective communication with people, because leaders are communicators. So hopefully that answered that question.
No, that was phenomenal, by the way. And a couple of points you brought up was, is have that roadmap. Even though this show is not scripted, like we all three of us know leadership and know very well. I say all three of us because Mike is usually here with us too, and we miss him.
Why are you bringing it up? That's not in the script, Chris.
Right, exactly. But we still have a roadmap. On the weekend, I text these guys, here's what the topic's going to be. That way they can look at their own things. They can be thinking about it. So we have an idea of where we're going. But also, I'm watching the clock because, we say we're going to be done, right at 2:00. We go a little bit over from time to time, pending the discussion. But we have a roadmap for where we're headed in this. Jim also brought up, entrepreneurial, getting up and speaking on stages or speaking before a board, presenting your content, presenting what you're going to do. But this also holds true, say in the C-suite or in management. If you don't have a roadmap for what you're going to be communicating with everybody, unless it's just this last minute, hey, oh my gosh, this has happened, we got to deal with it, which that's emergency preparedness and things that'll be coming up later on when it comes to planning. But the big thing as a communicator is whether it is an emergency or whether you've got a week, a month, even a year to plan things, plan them, which again, this will come up later as a skill, but as a communicator, even if it's just a quick, what do I say here? Take that breath. Take that breath. That was huge as a firefighter. Whenever, if you were an officer and you were the one working a major incident, you would take that quick breath. You just said, okay, here's what I'm going to say, and say it. You never want to just get on and just start garbling up your radio traffic and no one knows what you just said, no matter what the incident is. You want to be able to take that breath as a communicator. You want to be able to say, okay, here we go. And when it comes to closing, a lot of people, when we talk about this as entrepreneurs, are like, well, I'm not on stage selling content or selling a book or selling a program. Okay, are you in front of people talking? Yes. Okay, then there's a close in there somewhere. Typically, a close is as a question. And so even as a manager, and I'll take it back to a company I was working for a long time ago, the CEO and owner was getting ready to announce to everybody that he just sold the company without telling anyone, and just sold it to one of our major competitors.
Wow.
Now, the fact that he pulled everyone together and didn't just say goodbye like many companies do, I had to give him credit for it. But they called us all over to the main headquarters office. So we had separate buildings, and we all get in there. And he gets up on this ladder, stair ladder thing for reaching high shelves, like you see in a Home Depot or something. And he's talking about how much he loves us, how much he appreciates us. The past 50 years in the company have been so great and all this and that. And we're sitting here going, what's he talking about? What's the point of this? The whole time he gave this long speech. I don't even remember most of it, to be honest with you. Granted, it's been a few years, a few decades now since I heard this speech. But Everybody around kept looking at each other. He was not paying attention to the audience at all, because all of us were going, what's the point of what he's talking about? We all already know this. What's the point? And then he ended it with it. By the way, I sold the company to such and such, and then just got off the steps and walked out of the room.
Wow.
Not the best move as a leader. Not the best move. That was not good communication. You know, and I'm sure he had it in his head of, hey, say thank you, but by the way, we're out, we're done. There was just so many other ways that it could have been handled. And then you look at the ones that, another example, restaurant here locally where I live, was only open for a couple of months. And just out of nowhere shut down. I mean, they built the building. It's not like they took over the building. This is a leading affair. I don't know how big they are, but they're a franchise. And, you know, they had an east location, west location, and, you know, things were going well, this and that. And then the next thing you know, employees went to show up, and there was a note on the door said, we're closed. No manager, no representation, nothing. Just, hey, by the way, you don't have a job. That is not effective communication. That is not communicating as a skill. That is not, and this is the biggest point for me as a communicator, taking care of the very people that are following you, that you serve. If you have a service to provide, then provide it and communicate about it. Don't speak in circles and circles and circles and circles to where nobody really knows what you're talking about, and then go, mic drop, I'm out the door, and throw out the final point and just walk off. And no one gets a chance to talk to you. No one gets a chance to find out what's next for them. Nothing. Nobody knew. Literally, the only thing that came out as a communication in this was, by the way, we're out. We're gone. And no one knew what to do. And so, you know, when I think about leaders as communicators, the issues here where communication fails is too often we check the box. Now, if you had seen our series prior to the new year, when we first started this in the fall of last year, we spent a month talking about communication. And we deep dove into a lot of these topics. And one of the big ones for me is don't check the box communication. Don't just say it just to say it. Give it purpose and a meaning. If you're going to send an email, have it be with purpose and meaning. You know, best case scenario, I see these Monday motivations, which I love. I love motivation. I love quotes. I'm an inspirational speaker. Love doing it. Love rallying the troops, pumping everybody up. I love it. But if that's the only thing that you are sending out, and it's so you can say, I talked to my team, and you check the box, no one's getting it. Case in point, this actually has happened. They had put that Monday motivation out, and at the very bottom of it, by the way, mandatory safety meeting on Thursday at 2:00. Come into the training room. No one's there. But the person putting on the training, the executives that were in charge, and the one manager who was supposed to get their team there. No one showed up. Everybody looks bad on this, right? And the trainer was a consultant hired. So they still had to pay him, even though he didn't even have to teach the class. Still had to pay him. And so the executives looked at the managers. Where's your people? I sent out my Monday email to them all. So this person I get to talking about, I said, well, did you look at if anybody read it? He said, yeah, looked to see if they read it. Okay. So you only saw if they opened it. You saw digitally. You didn't go around checking with anybody. You didn't follow up with anyone. Well, no, I sent it. They get it. Go ask how many people they actually saw it. People were deleting it, or it was going straight to spam because no one was actually opening it and reading it. Because this person was just checking the box. They missed a major training session that the company had paid for. So they missed out on information. So they missed out on a chance to be communicated with by their company, which shows how much a company cares. People like that, okay? Plus, he didn't do his job. Now, what happened after the fact, I'm not quite sure. I know there was punishment that was had. He didn't lose his job over it, but we had to restructure, or they had to restructure their entire communication strategy. And so, Jim, this is where I want to bring you back in is when we're looking at working with teams and developing programs, like we have the GCC, we have many different people come on it, and they're a part of different industries and different businesses and have different purposes. But when we're communicating with them on when to be there, what time to be on, and then when you open it up, when you say hey, today we're going to talk about this, we're going to talk about this, we're going to talk about this. Yes, that's a task list. Yes, Jim can check the box on that, but he sets the intent behind it. So looking at communication as a strategy, Jim, what are some things that you put in place to ensure that it's not just the fact that you sent the message, but that the right message was sent and that everybody's receiving it?
Yeah. Well, one thing is really important. Redundancy is important. I don't care what people say. I've talked to many people. The people that like direct things, you tell them once, they'll say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get your memo." That can happen. Sometimes they're great organizers, but I can tell you it's just one delete away if they already know the message. Repetition is really important. People just forget, especially in today's day. I go around, "Oh, yeah, I kind of know." Okay. They also don't realize how many times they say, "Oh, I forgot," or "I planned something else," because they didn't have it up first of mind, right? So repetition is really important. The other thing is make sure that it's consistent and clear. Hey, I'd love for you to attend this meeting. It's at this time. That's different than, hey, make sure you attend this meeting. That's different. What's your intention? Is it optional or not? You got to be very specific, right? And then if you're able to circle around, just be able to confirm, "Hey, did you get my message?" And just confirm that they got it and it was received. Hey, and it's really great if it's a call to action. You can confirm whether or not they intend to take the action. Hey, as an example, Chris, I sent you the message to, let's say, the GCC meeting. Hey, did you get it, Chris?
Yeah.
Okay, let's say you did. Okay, great. Hey, a more important question isn't whether or not you got it. The more important question is, hey, I'll see you there, right? What's your answer?
Jim, you're cutting
Yes
out
or
real
no,
bad
right?
there.
Oh, I said, if I ask you, "I'll see you there," right?
Right.
You're going to say yes or no, right? That's so important. A lot of people look for opportunity to forget things. They don't confirm. Me telling you if you got the message is different than you agreeing to be there. Making sure that we're clear in terms of what the expectation is, but also get that confirmation. The strongest close is one where somebody confirms, because then you have something to hold them to. Not confirming whether they got your message, but the exact action you want them to take. Hey, I need for you to be able to attend the meeting. Great. Did you get my message, Chris?
Yes.
Did you get my message?
Yes.
Yeah, great. That doesn't mean you're going to be there. You just got my message. It doesn't matter what my intention is, right? So you got to confirm, right? Make sure you deliver a message. Make sure you can repeat the message as well. Make sure it's clear what the message is. And then finally, confirm. And then make sure the right call to action is confirmed, confirmed by that person personally. That's the best plan you could have to make sure people are at something, or that you're communicating effectively with people.
Yeah, and the biggest key is, the term I use is follow up. Follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up.
Yeah.
And especially if it's that important. If it's hey, just so everybody knows, this is, this happened and it's not a big deal, or this is coming up, if you can make it, great. If it's a voluntary deal, okay, cool. Hey, did you guys see it? Yeah, we saw it. Who's all going to be there? Okay. And you let it go. That's fine. But if it's going to be that important, like a training session, especially if people are sitting back going, "We don't train enough. We don't work together. We don't know how to do this." And they put it together, but you as the leader didn't say, "Hey, this is what we're doing," or say as a parent. I mean, how many times in a relationship, and it doesn't have to be, spousal or marriage relationship, even just, neighbors or whatever, where we miss something happening in somebody's life because we didn't pay attention, or we didn't follow up, or someone didn't bring it up and talk about it. And they just missed it completely because nothing was said and no one followed up with them. Look at planning a party. I used to be a youth pastor, and I paid for all the food, except for what I had them bring, dish. Like I paid for the main dish. If we were 4th of July party, we had hamburgers and hot dogs. I took care of all that. But if I really want to know how many people are coming, I send out an email to the parents and to the students. Yep. Hey, this is when this is happening. This is what I'm providing. What are you guys providing? You know how many emails I got back? Out of 20? 1. How many? I got 1. Now, instead of just assuming, oh, yeah, they probably read it. I know such and such always brings chips. This person always brings pop. This person always brings watermelon. No, I sent another message. So I wanted to make sure, because also they were allowed to bring family and friends to this. I needed to know if I was buying 20 hot dogs or 200 hot dogs. There's a huge difference there.
Yep.
And see, that's how simple communication can be. It's following up. If it, like Jim said, if I send 5 emails about something that's really important, and those that just get it, it's written down, it's locked down, but it's still going to go to them, they can just delete it and know that they're going to be there. But if you've got those that need the extra reminders, you know what? Just cover all your bases. Cover all your bases and make sure it's there. And if you really want, and I put this into a practice after a leader did it for me. This organization, we did our leaders, we'd send, everything that's going on, here's what's been happening, here's, all this and that. And, as managers, we were to go through and, okay, this is specific to my crew. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to sit down. We're going to discuss it. Another part of it may or may not pertain specifically, but hey, just in case, we'll talk about this too, but it's not as important. Well, he wanted to ensure how many people were reading the entire email. And I've put this into practice since then. At the bottom, he said the first crew or the first team to email me back saying you read it all, I'm buying dinner tonight. Only 1 crew turned in that message, and he waited until the end to tell everybody who won. He waited until the end. Only 1 crew. My crew was not it. I was the second one to call because I was busy dealing with something else. Normally, I would have seen that email first. I missed it. But it wasn't because I didn't read it all. It was just because it ended up being literally who was able to open the email first. I had to take a phone call. Darn it, I missed dinner. But here's the thing. Not everyone read it. Only 2 of us had actually called him by a certain time. It was proof that not everyone reads everything. They skip things. So if you have those things that are important, if you have these points that you need to communicate on, that you need to close on, again, this closing is not just for somebody who's given a stage on speech or trying to do sales. This close is ensuring that the right information gets to the right people at the right time, and we're not just checking the box to get out there. Make it important. Practice it if you have to. Ask for help if you need to. If you're hearing Jim and I talk about this, reach out to us. You're hearing from 2 master communicators right here. Not saying I always get it right or I'm perfect. I've got people helping me all the time too. I've reached out to Jim for things before. The point is if it is that important that it needs to go out there, then make sure it gets out there and gets done right. Make sure you're saying it in the right ways. And if you don't know, and Jim hit this beautifully, if you don't know, ask. Ask, hey, am I writing this? I had somebody, I just sent 2 emails, 2 different links and 2 different times. Did not accommodate for the fact that some of the people in these messages are receiving both messages because they're a part of both teams. I have some that they're individuals in this team, some are individuals in this team, but I have a few that cross over. And I did not specify as well as I could have or should have. This is for this time and this group. This is for this time and this group. If you're in both, you're to be at both. And it put some confusion out there, and I had to clear it up. And I said, how would you have liked to see me write that? Well, I wished you would have bolded this and this, and it would have fixed it for us all. Guess what? That gets bolded every single message now. Ask. You know, we're going to make mistakes, especially when we're trying to communicate things. It's going to happen. We mix up the words. We don't type something right, especially me. I don't like typing. But the point is, communication is a skill. Yes, there are those who seem to have a more natural ability to communicate. But believe you me, if they're that good, it's not just because they were born with it. It's because they've been working on it. They've been working on themselves. They've been getting help. They've been working with others, working on others with it. And if it's not something that's one of your top abilities, I got to recommend right now, get that help. Ask how you can do and be better. Jim, closing thoughts from you, and how do we connect with you?
Yeah, you can go to jimtchong.com, jimtchong.com. You thought I was going to say Zoom Turtle, right? But you can go to zoomturtle.com, find out a lot of things I'm about, but directly jimtchong.com. But, I want you to consider just communication. It affects everything. Don't just assume, but really think about this. This is really key, because everything that gets done or not done is because of communication or lack thereof. So thank you so much for this topic conversation about communication, because leaders are communicators. Back to you, Chris.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to be. You just have to be. I don't say that a lot on certain things. I do try and allow for flexibility, but as a communicator, being an effective communicator, no matter where you are in life, it has to be a top thing. It really does. And Jim, you said it best. Never assume that it's just getting done. Follow up, check in with people, make sure the right things were said, make sure the most important parts were taken care of, and you'll see a lot more success. And if you're already having a lot of success, don't just sit back and think from here on out you can just check the box and say this is okay. Because when you start doing that, other people start doing it as well. Next week, since we just talked about communicating, getting the message out there, and Jim alluded to this earlier, incidentally, because he knows I say this a lot, but we're going to deep dive into leaders are listeners. Just talked about getting the message out. Let's talk about bringing the message in. I'm Chris Tice, co-founder and CEO of Eagle Fire Enrichment, your leadership solutions company. You can find me at eaglefireenrichment.com, or if you throw a Chris at eaglefireenrichment.com in there, you can email me. I'd love to connect with you, discuss this further with you, especially if you're having communication issues. Many times it's a very, very, very simple fix. But until next week, I'm your host, Chris Tice, along with the amazing Jim T. Chong. Mike Van Pelt, we missed you, brother. If you're watching this later, I'm sure you will. God bless you. Have your best day ever. Remember, can't never did. We'll talk to you next time.
Have a great one. Take care.